The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
This is Brad Marcus, and welcome to another episode of Toilet Side Wrestling Talk. Today's guest hails from the great state of New Jersey and began wrestling in 1993. He was trained by Larry Sharpe and Glenn Ruth, who you may know as Headbanger Thrasher. Worked for such promotions as the WWE, ECW, Maximum Extreme Wrestling, NWA, Coastal Championship Wrestling, Ring of Honor, Fighting Evolution Wrestling, and I could go on. He's the current ARW Tag Team Champion along with Thrasher. He's also held the CCW Tag Team Championships, the NWA Tag Team Championships, and of course the WWF Tag Team Championships, all with Thrasher. From 1995 to the year 2000, my guest appeared on the PWI 500 list, peaking at 104. He's also been immortalized in 3 wrestling video games, WWF WrestleMania 2000, WWF Warzone, WWF Attitude, and I believe those are all on the Nintendo 64. Shared the ring with obscure wrestlers like Midian, the New Age Outlaws, Hall of Famer The Godfather, Hall of Famers The Dudley Boys, The Hardys, Hall of Famers Edge and Christian, Hall of Famer JBL, Hall of Famer Kane, Hall of Famer Mick Foley, The Rock, and I could go on. So let's welcome today's guest, professional wrestling tag team legend, sometimes known as Chaz, sometimes known as Beaver Cleavage, but to most people, he's known as Headbanger Mosh. Hey, Chaz, how are you?
Doing great. How about you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for coming on this evening. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me. That was a great video package, minus one thing.
What?
The cones.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. You know, I had very limited. I was nervous to go to the Peacock Network and take the videos off the WWE part, because I don't think it ever would have made it to air. So, you know, I had limited stuff and not the highest quality to work with.
It's all good. It's still good. I liked it. I enjoyed it. So that was
all right. Good. Before we get into the wrestling stuff, can I ask you about your professional kickball career?
Sure.
Are you still playing?
I'm still playing. Yes.
And the meatballs?
So, the meatballs are retired.
Okay.
So I played. That was my main team, probably from 2007 through 2014-ish. And then we kind of, I was always the old guy on the team, and then everyone started getting married and having kids and stuff like that. And then we made one more run at a tournament in Vegas that we had never won. It was a national tournament. We never won. So we made one last run at that one, and we ended up winning it. So at that point, after 2016, we haven't played together since. So we kind of went out as champions. So with the meatballs, we won 4 national championships.
Oh my God. So up until about a week ago, I didn't even know that you could do professional kickball. How do you go from playing kickball for fun to being on a team that wins 4 championships?
Well, I started in a little league down here in Florida, down in Boca, and just playing for fun on Friday nights. And this meatball team was already kind of formed and put together, and then they were doing this one league we played for called WACA, They were doing this big tournament in Vegas. It's their Founders Cup. They do it every year, but it was the first big time they were going to do it, and they were doing it in Vegas. And they basically, the guys on the team came to me and asked me to join the team. And it was funny, when they asked me, I thought to myself, this team's really good. Any team I'm on, I haven't been able to beat them yet. So I want to play with them just to learn and to get better.
Sure.
But there's no way in hell I'm going to Vegas to play kickball. 6 months later, I was in Vegas playing kickball, and we lost in the finals of the national championship game.
Now, is there money go to the winners?
Yes. So all the tournaments we play in are money tournaments. The national championship game, the winner gets $10,000.
Oh, wow.
The winning team gets 10 grand.
Sure.
So
and does runner-up get anything?
In some tournaments they do. So the smaller tournaments they do, because now there's different leagues that go on. One's called the Circuit, another one's called TNS. There's another one. There's starting to be more of those now. So so some tournaments we've won like $5,000. Other ones it's been like $4 grand. Other ones it's been $2,500. Just depends on the size of the tournament. But my meatball team, we basically went 3.5 years without losing a game, not losing a tournament, and over that 3.5 years, I think we made probably close to $60,000.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, because again, 3 years in a row of a national championship, there was 10 grand right there. So,
oh my God, that's amazing.
It's just so much fun.
You just have to pay for yourself to get out to Vegas, and then.
Yeah, so we paid a different tournament. So I've been to Vegas a few times. I've been to Dallas. I've been to New Orleans. I've been to DC, New York.
Wow.
Traveled all over playing. I mean, we had sponsors. Right before Tito's was big, we had Tito's as a team sponsor. And then what I would do is hold on to the money, and then when whoever was going on a tournament, whatever was left, we would take and divvy up. And it would pay, for the flight or pay for the hotel. It kind of, was a wash, but it was, it's so much fun. So I still play, not as competitive. I don't travel as much, but being here in South Florida, we can play all year round. So literally last month, I've been playing 3 nights a week.
Oh God, that's okay at home that you can leave 3 nights a week.
Yeah, my son's 17.
Okay.
Well, it's all so it's just drive, go, and they're more fun social stuff now. So there's like a social bar. So, and my son's 17 and he works and he plays soccer, and so it's I go.
Everyone's got their own thing going on.
Yeah, I go. It's 20 minutes away. I play. I go to the bar. I have a drink. I come home. It's perfect.
Okay. All right. Two ignorant questions about this, and then we'll move on.
Okay.
So I went on YouTube and I looked up kickball and the meatballs, and I believe I found some games, because it said from Florida. I was like, but since they are played, and I couldn't tell who was who, I couldn't find you. It all looked the same. Is a home run inside the park home run in kickball, or is there a fence in the outfield?
So there's been one tournament I played in where we actually play on soccer fields most of the time. So there's really no fence. So it's just, you kick it. If it goes over someone's head, you can run all day, you run. There was a tournament we did in Nashville where we played on a baseball field, and it was a full blown, like a regular, it was like a college field. So the outfield was far, but we were playing like right on the edge of the grass, right on the outside of the infield. And there was a fence in right field. And in that game, I did kick 2 balls over the fence.
Oh God, that was
so yeah. So I was like, don't give me a challenge with a fence. That ball's gone.
Totally. Like when I used to play tennis in high school, like in gym. I mean, it's like, why? I'm going to be swinging for a home run every single time this ball comes at me. Okay, this is your last dumb question. Could your team now, or the meatballs, could you hit like a team of like 10-year-olds?
Oh yeah, we've 1 or 2 hitted like adults. So
wow.
Yeah, because the ball our pitcher was clocked at one time. The ball coming out of his hand was leaving his hand at 70 miles an hour. So it's not just a slow pitch. It's and there's a pitcher right now I play against where he's sick. He throws left-handed. It's got wicked spin on it. You remember playing in grade school? It was, if the ball was bouncy or it had spin on it, you're like, there's no spinning, there's no bouncing the ball.
Yeah.
Now the more bounce and spin you have, the better.
That's amazing. I had no idea.
It's
okay,
awesome.
So this kind of transitions into my next question. Is it ever difficult, or was it, in the 90s going out in public? Do you get recognized a ton?
Well, going out back in the day when we were on TV every week, yes, it was. I mean, the Attitude Era was hot. Everyone knew about wrestling. Everybody, everybody for the most, but not everybody. But you know what I mean. We were watching it, so yes, it was very, very difficult to go out. It was very difficult to go to restaurants. Now, not so much. Way? Sometimes it was annoying. Sometimes it was fine. It just depends on how. Depends on how fans or people, how they react to you. For instance, if you're eating and you're in the middle of putting the fork in your mouth and they come up and they slide a piece of paper and they go, "Hey, can you sign this?" That's annoying.
Yeah.
So you can kind of understand how some celebrities get a bad rap because they tell someone, to fuck off or leave me alone or things like that. Sure. So you try to, if they're respectful about it, and they'll come up like after you're eating dinner, because I've had people come up to me and say, "Hey, can I get an autograph?" I'm like, "Well, I'm in the middle of eating dinner with my girlfriend here. Can I catch you afterwards?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, well, never mind. Then you're too busy. You're too big now." And I'm like, "I'm having fucking dinner here." Like,
you wouldn't go up to anybody and ask that,
right? Like, let me get done dinner or something. So it just depends. It depends on how your approach. Some people are very, respectful and nice about it, and other people just don't care, and they think because you're on TV, they can treat you however you want. So it just depends. It's all situational.
Did you grow up in New Jersey?
Yes, South Jersey, right outside Philly.
Okay, and so what was your personality like as a kid?
Quiet, socially awkward, very quiet. Shy, socially awkward. I was basically brought up to be seen and unheard. And if I was heard, that was not good for me. So I was always kind of quiet and, just kind of kept to myself. Were
your parents like disciplinarians?
My dad just didn't want to be bothered. So that was just a whole different thing.
Sure.
I was just brought up to, I was always quiet and kind of shy and kept to myself. And, it's just kind of how it was.
So I know you said you have a 17-year-old son. Do you have any other children?
No, I just have the one.
Okay. Do you, when my oldest is 11, so I'm not there yet to even be able to have a conversation with them on any level. Or do you recognize, or while you were raising your son, being different than how you were raised?
Oh yeah. So here's what I do. If a situation pops up where he's pissing me off or he's acting out, or this was his entire life, I would stop and I would think, what would my dad do? And I do the total opposite, and it works out really well now.
Did you have siblings?
I have an older brother, a younger sister.
Okay. Were you guys close in age?
My brother and I are super close, always have been, still are. And my sister and I are pseudo close, but there's just an age gap, and we've never we weren't really close when we were younger, but it's there. So
at this point, but I know what you mean. Like my wife's younger brother is like 7 years younger, and that's like, it's a pretty significant difference.
Yeah.
She's going away to college. He's 10 years old, or so it's so when did wrestling come onto your radar?
Well, I always watched it growing up.
Okay.
That was kind of my escape. I would watch it. My brother and I, my best friend, we would take the speed line over from Jersey over to Philly, go over to the Spectrum, and we'd watch over there.
Oh, wow.
Once a month we went over. I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, we're talking mid 80s, so I don't remember. So I was a fan watching it growing up, and it was funny in high school, because then I would get a group of friends in high school. There'd be like a whole group of us. They would come over, and some of them thought I was nuts, but they just went just because it was cool to go over on the speed line, and we were all hanging out and being kids.
Sure.
But I always used to joke around saying, "Hey, one day I'm going to be a professional wrestler," and they're all like, "Yeah, okay." But then I ended up making it. So.
One day I'm going to be an astronaut. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure you are.
would people that you went to high school with, or that you grew up with, be surprised now that you were a pro wrestler?
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
I mean, some of them were like that. Yeah, I mean, I used to say it all the time. I think a lot of them were like, I'm guessing. I don't really, other than Facebook now, like it's not like I kept in touch with a lot of people from high school.
Sure.
But I keep in touch now through Facebook with some. But yeah, I think some of them probably at first were like, "Oh wow," yeah, I don't know.
Did you?
I guess I never paid attention that much.
Were you athletic in high school?
Yeah. I played sports. I played baseball. I wrestled from 3rd grade through high school and a little bit of college. I played soccer. I ran cross country. So I was always doing some kind of sport or hurt from some kind of sport or something.
Would your parents come to like your meets and games and stuff?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, okay.
Yeah, sometimes.
Now, can you pinpoint like the moment you're like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna find a trainer now?
No, because what happened is there was a school. There was this called Route 30 Flea Mart in Clementon, New Jersey, and I would drive by, and every now and then there would be this big giant truck out front, and spray painted on the side said "Pro Wrestling Saturday night 8 p.m." And one night I was like, I have nothing to do. It's a Saturday night. Let me go check it out. So I went in and I watched, and it turned out that was the school. That was the Monster Factory, and they trained there. That's where they had the matches, and I had no idea. And then I ended up kind of lingering after the show, and this guy who was their heavyweight champ at the time, he was the Spider, and him and I started talking. Here it turns out it's Glenn, my wrestler, my partner.
Sure.
He trained me. So he said to me, because we knew of each other from high school, because our high schools wrestled each other. So we kind of knew we didn't know each other, but we kind of knew each other. So we ended up sitting there chatting and talking, and after the show, and he was like, "Oh, you should come try out." And I'm like, "Yeah." At this point, I was still kind of dabbling with wrestling in college, and I was like 170 pounds, soaking wet. And he was like, "No." I was like, "Well, let me go and put weight on. I got to put weight on. I'm too small." And he's like, "No, best time to learn how to wrestle is that put weight on as you go. It's the best way to learn. Because if all of a sudden you put all this weight on, it's not going to be, your body's not going to be as nimble. You're not going to be able to jump around as much."
Yeah.
So he said, if you learn as you put weight on, it'll be better. So it made sense. So I went home and thought about it, and the next week I went down to the school and I called up. I went down and did a tryout, and it turns out that there was like 30 kids there and 30 like 12-year-olds. And I was like, what was going on here? Larry Sharpe's stepdaughter, her school was doing a field trip to the Monster Factory. So it was like myself it was myself and 6 other people. We all did a tryout in front of the school. So
now, were you like when you were driving over there? Were you nervous?
No, I don't think I was nervous till I got there, because I didn't know what to expect when I got there. So there was nothing to be nervous about. But once I got there and I was in the ring, that changed, especially in front of kids, and then in front of Glenn, in front of other people. Because what I found out was Glenn told me Larry doesn't take everyone to the school. And at first I thought, he's taking everybody because he wants the money. Yeah. But there were 6 of us at that tryout. He only offered 2 of us a spot. And the reason for that is he didn't want to have someone in there who he didn't think had the capability to make it or the ability to make it, and then have them going around saying, "Oh, I went to the Monster Factory," but them being the drizzling shits. Yeah. So he didn't take everyone.
So were you aware of that, like why he wasn't taking everyone at the time?
No, because Glenn told me he didn't take everyone. But again, I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah. But there were 6 of us there, and when it was all done, he only offered us 2 spots to 2 of us.
And so at this point, so you're friends with Glenn. Do you feel like pressure to get up to? Actually, had you ever been inside of a wrestling ring before that first day? Never. So what do they put you through to see that Larry was looking for?
So they show you how to take basic bumps.
Okay.
So the first one was cross your arms, tuck your chin, and this is exactly what Glenn said to me. He goes, push your dick up to the air and just fall backwards. Now, it sounds easy enough, but if you really think about it, it's an unnatural thing to just fall backwards without putting your arms down.
Yeah.
Or putting your arms down this way. And so the idea is to keep your arms up here so you don't tuck your chin so you don't knock yourself out. Keep your elbows up so you don't get big knots on your elbows. So you had to figure that out. Okay. And then there was another one where you had to do walk out to a handstand, and then the same thing, flip over and land flat on your back.
Okay.
The third one was kind of like you ever see someone take a hip toss. So you take a couple steps out, jump, and you do a front flip and land flat on your back. And then he showed me how to hit the ropes. So you had to hit the ropes. So those were the 4 things. And those were the 4 things that I did every single day when I first started at the school. Before I even learned how to lock up, that's what I would do for hours.
And at this point, like, are you feeling pressure to get up to Glenn's level?
No, not at all. Because at this point, again, Glenn and I knew we weren't friends before we went to the school. So again, we kind of knew of each other, but didn't really know each other. So where I was so we knew of each other, but we weren't friends. So when I went to the school, there was zero pressure other than just pressure on myself to try and figure this out and see where it goes and see what happens. But 3 weeks into my training, WWF with WWE, they used to come in the Northeast. They always came around that area to tape WWE Superstars and WWE Challenge. So Glenn said to me, "Hey, WWF's coming into town to do TV tapings, and we're going to go." And I went, "Whoa!" I'm like, "Been here 3 weeks. I barely know how to bump other than getting a WWF ring." And his response was, "It's your first time there. They're not going to use you. They'll see you. You'll hang out. You'll get paid. That's all it is." So I'm like, jackpot, I'm in. So we go up to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and sitting there with everyone, and I'm in the locker room, and I'm like, holy shit moments, because there's Shawn Michaels, there's Bret Hart, there's Macho Man, who is my all-time favorite. There's this one, there's that one, and they roll out the big white board. Tony Gurria rolls out the big white board and have all the matches listed, and I see Adam Bomb versus Chaz Ware. They shortened my name from Warrington to Ware for TV purposes. And I looked at Glenn and I'm like, thought they weren't going to use me. He goes, "Well, I guess you got your first match tonight, don't you?"
So, but you'd only been training for, you said, a couple weeks at this
3
point?
weeks. 3 weeks.
So are you panicking once you see your name up there?
Shitting myself. Yeah, beyond nervous. And then, Adam Bomb's got Johnny Polo with him. And the good part is Glenn knows everybody. And everybody knows Glenn because he had been doing it for 3 years, going up there and just doing jobs. And then, Scotty, Raven, Johnny Polo, he went to the Monster Factory. So there was a commonality there for me to talk to him about it. So I'm waiting to go out, and I'm pacing back and forth, and I hear this raspy voice coming up, and it's Macho Man. And he stops and he looks at me and he shakes my hand and he goes, "First time here, kid?" And I'm like, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "Nervous?" And I go, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It's not as bad as everyone thinks." He goes, "You know what? I have nothing going on. I'm going to stand right here and I'm going to watch." And I went, "No, you don't have to do that. Like, you're a busy man. You should go." At this point, he was doing commentary all the time. And he's like, no. He goes, "I'll watch." So I went out there, and the back of my head now, I know he's back there watching, and I'm like, oh shit. So I get in there and I do my thing with Adam Bomb. He throws me to the floor. He clotheslines me on the floor. I get the wind knocked out of me. And I get back. Do the match, and I walk to the back, and Macho Man was standing right there. Put his arm around me. And he goes, "Kid, that was amazing. One day you're going to make some money in this business." He slapped me in the head and walked off.
Even if you never wrestled again, that is like an amazing life story that you had.
Yeah. And at that moment is when I said, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to wrestle. I want to get to this level to be able to get here. I mean, because once you get out in front of those people and you're walking out, everyone knows you're losing. Everyone knows you're to get beat up. They're booing you. You're telling you suck. And instead of being nervous about it, I was like, this is awesome. Like, these people are booing me. I don't even know. Totally. They don't even know me, but this is amazing.
Wow. So, you could be anybody. Did so at this point, had you and Thrasher talked about tag teaming at all? Not at all. Okay.
Not at all.
So when this question I always forget. Do you have a day job up to this point?
I did, yes.
Okay.
I was working at Sam's Club.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then when could you wrestle for a living once you got to WWF?
No. So what happened so I started there in June of '93.
Okay.
My first match was the first week of July, and then I was still working, and then literally before I had my first, what I would consider my first like real match, I had done 6 TV matches with WWF before I had like my first real match.
Okay.
So then in September, I ended up leaving Sam's. I got let go from Sam's for a time card discrepancy, which just meant I was there for 4 years. I was making a lot of money, and they wanted to get rid of me. So whatever.
Got it. It's usually what happens.
Yeah. So I collected unemployment from that point on, and then just Glenn and I started doing. I was doing some shows, and then Glenn and I didn't start tagging together until that November.
Okay.
And then in April of '94, we packed up the car and moved to Memphis for USWA.
Okay. And going together, like to wrestle singles, or going to wrestle together?
No, that's when, because we started tagging together in, I think I'm going to say November of '93. So we did like November, January, February, March, and then we did a show. And Glenn, because he had been around for a while, like he knew Cornette, he already knew Lawler. So Lawler, was on a show with us and was like, hey, I want to bring you guys into USWA. I want to bring you down to Memphis. So we packed up the car like the first week in April, I think it was, and moved to Memphis.
How old were you at the time?
April of '94, 20, not even 23. I would have been 23 in May.
So young to be traveling halfway across the country. So you spent time in Memphis, and does WWF, did you get on their radar at that point?
Well, we were kind of on the radar anyway, only because of doing jobs and stuff like that. But we didn't get full time until, we didn't get our first like signed contract until '96.
Oh wow, okay. And so you guys came in you guys wrestled as the Spiders and the Flying Nuns first?
So we were the Spiders. So we did the Spiders in USWA. And then we went home when we were done there, and then we went back out to Arkansas with Burt Prentice for a little over a year in Ozark Mountain Wrestling. And then from there, we went to Smoky Mountain, and that's where the Headbangers came from. Okay,
were you into, like, growing up, were you into, metal music?
Yes. So what happened was Tracy Smothers, the Rock and Roll Express, they were coming into Arkansas and doing shows with us every week. So they were talking to Cornette about us, and then we started giving them tapes. They started taking the tapes back. Cornette called us up, and he said, I'd like to bring you guys in, but the problem is I don't like the masks. He goes, I hate masked wrestlers. I think they're stupid. He goes, but you guys are good workers. I'd like to bring you in. He goes, how do you feel about not wearing the masks? At this point, we were like, we don't really care. We want to come there because, first of all, it was more money than we were making with Burt. But we knew that was kind of the gateway into WWF also. Got it. So Cornette said, now this part of the story is going to be funny, because Cornette said, well, he goes, I was at this Glenn Danzig concert. He goes, and this opening act was this really weird guy named Marilyn Manson. He goes, and he was dressed like a girl. He was like cross-dressing. He had makeup on. He goes, it was like heavy metal music, and there was like, they were stage diving, they were in mosh pits, they were beating the shit out of each other, they were spitting on each other, they had tattoos, they had earrings. He goes, not that I want you guys to go way out and get a bunch of tattoos and a bunch of piercings or wear dresses or anything. He said, I just think with your personalities being from the Northeast, he goes, because I was up in New York when I saw it, I just think this could be, something for you guys. It's a way to get you guys in the door. Yeah, so we were like, and at this point, I knew what he was talking about because I used to go to heavy metal concerts with my friends all the time over in the Bank and the Underground over in Philly. So I knew exactly what he was talking about. Sure. So we were like, yeah, we'll try it. Let's do it.
And are you like, can you go pick out your own gear, like how you guys are good, what your look's going to be?
What we did was the first TV we showed up, we didn't really know kind of what to wear. So we just went and we got T-shirts. We had shorts on. I think I had work boots on, and Glenn had sneakers on. But when we showed up, Cornette gave Glenn a Metallica shirt, and he gave me a Slayer shirt. And he said, here, wear these. So we were like, perfect. So that's what we wore for the first TV, and then we went out and bought like different shirts and stuff like that. And that's how it started.
And incorporating like paint.
So that was his idea. He said they put stuff on his face. So we were trying to figure out in the locker room. Again, we didn't even know what our names were. He goes, you guys are going to be Headbangers, but individual names, we didn't know what they were at the first TV taping.
Okay.
He kind of just made up some stuff. So he came up and he goes, no, this is how I want you to do it. And he grabbed black face paint and he just went like this on both our cheeks. And he goes, there, that's what I want you to do. You go. And we went, okay, so that's what we're going to do.
All right, well, so that's easy enough. As for a paint job, that's pretty simple, not very severe.
Yeah, so we took it from there and tried different things and just evolved it into what it ended up being and then what it is today. So it was just evolution over time.
Okay, so then come 1996, you guys get a contract with WWE.
Yes.
Or WWF. Does it work like where each of you has your own separate contract?
No. So actually how we were brought in was actually thanks to Cornette again.
Okay.
So they were doing TV in Hartford, Connecticut, and Smoky Mountain had shut down. So Glenn and I were just doing some indie things here and there. Glenn actually had went over to Japan for a couple of weeks and did an angle to bring me back. So we were getting ready to go over there when Cornette called us and he said, hey, I got some great news. He said, I was in talking to Vince and I said, hey, Vince, I got these two guys I'd like you to look at. And Vince goes, all right, so tell me about them. He goes, well, you've seen them before. He goes, they've been up here before as the Spiders. They've wrestled individually just as themselves. He goes, but I had this headbanger gimmick that I gave him down at Smoky Mountain, and they're just really good workers. I just want you to look at them. And he goes, I know who the Spiders are. He goes, I know those guys. He goes, just put them under a part-time contract. So at the time, they created this part-time contract. And what the part-time contract was, that's when they brought in Freddie Joe Floyd, Aldo Montoya, the plumber, they brought in all these weird, they brought in all those weird characters. And the idea was to build these characters up to a certain level. So it looked like they would give them a few wins on TV. And then when they would wrestle, like Shawn or Razor or somebody like that, they'd make it more competitive matches instead of just squash matches all the time.
Sure.
So, that's what Vince said. Vince said, give him the part-time contract. He goes, and then, we'll see where it goes from there. So we started with a part-time contract, which was awesome. So we were guaranteed X amount of dollars at every TV. Travel was paid for, hotel, everything was paid for. So we were like, this is amazing because we were going to be at every single Monday Night Raw. So it was guaranteed, money every month. And it was great. And that's how we got our foot in the door.
Now, in your head at the time, are you thinking I've made it?
Maybe, yeah, I guess.
Like you didn't have to have a day job or anything. Like this is your.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't had a day job other than working like part time at a car wash every now and then. If if we didn't have any bookings, because at that point, I mean, we were lucky if we were making $50 or $60 a night on a show. Because while we were gaining traction, there's no internet like there is now.
Yeah, sure.
So there was no way to really get your name out there other than just scoop sheets, and you always had to do something to try to get on scoop sheets and send tapes out. So I'm thinking we probably thought we made it. We got a contract, we were there, but we knew from there it was up to us to get that full-time deal.
And are you guys traveling together exclusively, or is there anyone else that you're traveling with?
Well, every now and we always drove, and we grew up, we lived 10 minutes from each other. We grew up 15 minutes, so it was easy for us to travel together. We were always together. So when we got there, it was the same thing. Like they would even book us separate hotel rooms. And we were like, that's stupid. Save the money. Just put us in the same hotel rooms because we were just so used to it. So we were always together. Sometimes somebody would jump in with us. Like one night, Owen Hart came over to us and he's like, guys, I forgot to get a rental car and all the rental cars were sold out. Can you guys give me a ride? We're like, fuck yeah, you're Owen Hart. Like,
totally.
Here's the front seat. Like you do whatever you want. And then we pull in and he's like, yeah, I don't have a hotel either. Can I sleep on your floor? I'm like, well, you're not sleeping on the floor, but yes, you can have one of the beds.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah.
Did was there anyone in the locker room that was unapproachable?
No.
Or that intimidated you?
Well, me being a shy, quiet kind of introvert, I was intimidated by everyone because I was socially awkward. But everyone was welcoming. I mean, it was the locker room there was just, it was awesome because everyone was there for a purpose. Everyone wanted it. That's when that's right when Kevin and Scott left and went to WCW, and the whole Monday Night Wars thing really started. So our whole goal and mission was to beat WCW. So it was a whole family atmosphere. I mean, the Undertaker's the Undertaker.
Yeah.
And he's changing in the locker room with the rest of us. Sean, they're all changing. Brett, there was no, we get a special locker room or any of that stuff. Everyone was in the same locker room and everything.
Was it ever surreal, like, say, talking to the Undertaker, knowing that you're talking to the Undertaker? When you first got there.
Oh, yeah. No, it was mind-blowing. I mean, I can tell you this, like Smoky Mountain, when we're wrestling the Rock and Roll Express.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember in 10th grade, I was at Disney in the President's Hall, whatever it is at Disney. Yeah. And I met Ricky Morton in 10th grade, and I got a picture with him. So like wrestling guys like that. And then you're at WrestleMania 13 and I'm putting face paint on, and Animal from the Road Warriors comes up next to me and he's doing all his stuff. And I'm like, all right, I'm done. And he was like, fuck off. Cause he knew he was going to be there for an hour.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it was those guys that I watched growing up was just, like then you're in there and you're hanging out with Jake Roberts and all these other, I mean, it was very surreal with the guys that I watched growing up.
So you were saying about the Monday Night Wars. So that was present on everyone's mind during that period of time?
Oh yeah. So everyone on Monday night, like you went out there and busted your ass and did what you had to do. And then everyone, because that's when WCW would replay Nitro. So everyone stayed up all night watching it, and then we'd come in the next day at TV and everybody would talk about it.
And are people talking about ratings at this point?
Oh yeah. You knew what your rating was on your segment.
Wow. Okay, so you guys wrestle as the Headbangers. I only have one question about winning the WWF Tag Team Championships, because I'm sure you've been asked a zillion times. How long between winning the belt and getting yourself in front of a mirror, looking at what it looks like on you? Was that one of the first things you do?
Without making myself look like a moron.
Yeah, no, you're talking to me. I'm like,
I'm saying, because it was the actual story of how we found out we were winning the belts was great too. Again, everything goes back to Cornette. So
yeah, okay.
So we're in the Louisville Garden, and we were thrown into that match only because Stone Cold broke his neck. We weren't even supposed to be in that match.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So we found out the Raw before that we were taking their spot in the match.
Okay.
So we get to TV, and we get to the pay-per-view, and we're just excited because we're on another pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. And Cornette goes, boys, come with me. So we're like, all right. So he takes us all the way down into the parking garage in Louisville Gardens, and like to the other side of the building, away from the entrance. And he goes, all right, I got something I got to tell you. So we're like, down here? Like, what's going on? He's like, you guys are winning the belts. And we kind of just went, cool. We just kind of stood there. And he goes, I brought you down here so you could jump up and down so you don't do it in front of everyone else. So all three of us were jumping up and down and hugging downstairs at the Louisville Garden.
Had you anticipated this?
I had no idea. No, I had no clue. I was just like, this is going to be great. We're on another pay-per-view. Like, to me, that's all it was. To be on another pay-per-view was amazing. Yeah. And then we're sitting in the meeting knowing this now. So all four teams are there. And it was Jack Lanza, who was our agent. And he's gone through everything. And now I'm just like this. Because I'm trying to hide the smile. So we get done talking about the match. And they're like, okay, so we got to figure out something with the Godwins, with you guys pinning one of them. Or no, it was with Owen. So we went through, I'm thinking of the Ground Zero. So he's like, we got to get through that, blah, blah, blah. I was thinking of WrestleMania. So we're like, we got to get through it, yada, yada. So we got done all of it. And with Stone Cold coming down, hitting the stunner and the whole thing. And I'm just sitting there like this. And it was classic because Owen was the one who turned around and went, you guys can smile now. It's okay.
Oh, really? That's
yes. And we all started laughing. And because it was funny when I told you Owen drove with us, he was tag team champion and European champion at the time. So he got up in the morning. He got up in the morning and he went in the shower. But before he did, he took everything out of his bag and he took his belts and laid them down right next to one another on a dresser. Okay. So he's in the shower and Glenn and I walk over and we're staring at the belts like this. And we're like, cool. So pick up the tag belt, and we're like jumping up and down on the bed with it.
Yeah.
So then the shower turns off. We go and we put the belt down, and we're just sitting there like this. Like, we're cool. And Owen comes out. He's drying himself off. He turns around. He goes, "You touched my belt, didn't you?" We're like, "Yeah."
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So Owen knew how we were. So
yeah. Like he could see that there was a glow there.
Yeah. So there's no my emotions are written on my forehead. So there was no hiding anything.
Do you know of one match that you could say this was the best match I've ever been in, or is it too difficult to?
Yeah, that's difficult. I mean, there's plenty of matches where I know we had so much fun. Like those country whipping matches with the Godwins were a blast.
Yeah.
They hurt like hell because we legit beat the shit out of each other with those straps. But like I had so many fun matches with Billy and Road Dogg. It's kind of hard to say what my best match was, but I mean, clearly my favorite matches ever were Ground Zero won the belts and WrestleMania 13, which was our first WrestleMania.
So was that like surreal too when you walked out? Was there any part of you that was a kid that was like, "Oh my God, I'm at WrestleMania"?
Every part of me was a kid. That whole weekend, I was a kid. I mean, it's WrestleMania. You know, I used to go over to the Garden State racetrack and watch it over there via closed circuit TV, how they used to do it.
Sure.
Yeah, but then, you know, we win. We're winning our first WrestleMania, we win. And then we get a title shot the next night against Davey Boy and Owen. Yeah, the whole thing was just crazy and surreal.
Does your son was he ever interested in your watching? No.
He's come to plenty of shows. They're doing indie shows.
Okay.
But there's been times I've looked over in the middle of my match and he's sound asleep on a table.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm just.
Is that disappointing, or is that what normally happens with like children of professional wrestlers?
Yeah, no, it's not at all, because like if you ever watch Brett's documentary, there's one point where he tells Blade to go find the Headbangers and go play. So.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So to him, Brett's just dad. To me, that's Bret Hart. But to Brett's kids, he's just dad. So to Tyler, I'm just dad. I'm nobody.
Yeah.
Like his friends will be like, "So that's your dad's really a professional wrestler?" And then like they'll go and they'll Google me, or they look it up.
Yeah.
And then the next week they're staring at me, and Ty's like, "He's my dad. Like he's annoying doofus."
Yeah, he was
like,
the guy who was yelling at me last night.
Right.
Was there a point where like being on the road is just like takes a toll on you?
Yeah, there were times it would get to you. I mean, especially back then, it was totally different, because we would go 10, 12, 13 days in a row before we were home. There was one tour we went to England. We flew all the way to England for one night only, did the one match, flew back, and then had 10 straight days on the road after that. It was exhausting. It got to you, but, it was part of it. And for me, I was single. I wasn't married. I had no kids. I had no responsibility. So to me, it was no big deal. Sure.
And did you guys ever have any problems between the two of you? Like, get sick of each other?
Oh yeah.
Oh really?
Oh, absolutely.
Can you laugh about that now?
Oh, we talk about it all the time.
Oh, would you consider him to be your work wife?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've outlasted marriages. So yes.
Oh yeah, for sure. Totally.
Yeah. No, he's my work wife. We're best friends. I mean, we literally, to this day now, we grew up, we first started, and we lived 10, 15 minutes away from each other. We live 10 minutes away from each other now.
That's amazing.
So our kids all get along, and his oldest daughter just had a baby. His second daughter is my goddaughter. His two youngest daughters are good friends with Tyler. Tyler's good friends with all of his kids. So yeah, so it's one big family.
That's nice that you have this career that you can actually share with somebody, like who is there with you and knows exactly what you're talking about when you.
Yeah, and it made it easier, because probably neither one of us would have left. I couldn't have imagined of packing up the car and driving to Memphis and doing that on my own.
Sure.
I couldn't have imagined it. And Glenn always said the same thing. He's like, that's not something I would have done on my own.
When you had like a character change, is that stressful?
Like, so you're talking about fever cleavage?
Yeah, and then Chaz, like, is it like stressful on you? Like, no, this was working so well.
Well, Yes and no. The yes was because it took me totally outside my comfort zone, and I never really wrestled singles. Like I said, I had three regular matches like down at the Monster Factory, and one outside of match. So basically maybe 4 or 5 like what I would consider real matches, not job matches on TV. As a singles wrestler, everything else had been tag team. Or if I was doing a singles wrestler, when Glenn and I were tagging together, like he was at ringside, so we were always kind of at ringside together. So yes, it was a little stressful only because it was taking me way outside my comfort zone and I didn't know what to expect. But the other side of it was exciting because this was a totally different character. I knew where they were going with the character. It was going to be fun and silly. But I was excited at the same time because I'm like, this is going to be something new, something different. Glenn's hurt. This could give me, time to shine on my own. And then from there, who knows where it could go. Yeah. But then when they killed the gimmick off and then they just brought me in, you're just going to be Chaz, a kid from New Jersey. The girl, she was nice, but we just didn't get along that well. Our personalities clash. And instead of me just embracing it and saying, look, this is a work situation, I was kind of negative about it. And then that brought in changed the whole thing. Yeah. So I didn't look at it. Looking back, anyone who had a female with them, they were getting a big push. They were on TV all the week because that's just what they were doing. Yeah. I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it and I'm like, oh, being strapped with this pain in the ass.
So why would they give you somebody who you could work with and put out like a really good product from that?
Because I guess they were paying her. I guess they put her.
I guess that's true.
They put her under a contract, and I think if the Beaver cleavage thing would have just kept going, it would have been fine. But when they said just go out and be yourself, first of all, I didn't know who myself was. I didn't know. Chaz had no personality. Chaz never existed. It was always Mosh. Yeah. They said, don't go out and be Mosh. Okay, so here's this Beaver thing. Go out and act like a big kid where you're in love with your mother. And then they were like, okay, go be Chaz. And I went, who's Chaz? Now, she had never been around, so they told her to go be herself. So it was like, well, who are you? I don't even know who I am, but who are you? And we were kind of, and then personalities got in the way of each other. And it just didn't work. So that was the point of bringing Glenn back. But again, looking back, I should have just embraced it and figured it out with her. And then when Glenn came back, it could have been a whole Hardy Boys, like Lita thing, because they were bringing in, that's what they were doing. But at the time, I wasn't paying attention to that.
I'm going to let you go soon. Just 2 more questions. Are you able to step outside of yourself and look back at your career and be like, wow, I did look what I did. Yeah,
I look at that. I go this way. I look at it every day.
Yeah. Totally.
There's my action figures. There's my belt. It amazes me. I still look at it and get amazed. It's still surreal. I still look back and go, wow, like that was really me. Like that was doing that. Like that's just crazy.
At the height of everything. Did you ever play when the video games would come out? Like I know I was talking about this in the intro that there's 3 that you're on. Did you guys play those at all? Like when they would come out?
Oh, absolutely. Glenn and I used to joke around on when we did radio interviews, and they were like, "So do you guys the video games?" We're like, "Yeah, it's the best thing ever because we can play with ourselves all day and we never get sticky or messy."
But they set that up for you, for that answer.
You teed that up too easy, but that was the whole reason why. Like, I had to go buy a Nintendo 64. For WrestleMania 2000. So, yes.
And the funniest, not funny, but those games in that period were like known as the best wrestling games, like even still to this day. Do you watch wrestling, like what's on TV nowadays?
Not really. If I flip through and I see somebody I know that's on or someone that I like, I'll keep it on and I'll watch them. But for the most part, no, I couldn't tell you any storylines. I couldn't really tell you anything like that. Like I'll flip WWE on if it's someone I know. Okay, I'll watch it. Or the other day I flipped it on. Oh, I flipped it on and Cena came out. So I watched the promo. Then I turned it off. Like AEW, I'll watch. It depends on who's on. Like if Red Velvet comes on, I've known Red since basically since she started. So, I'll watch her. I'm good friends with her. Like if Matt's on or, Jeff's on, people like that, I'll watch. It just depends. But for the most part, it's not like I sit there and again,
stories.
I couldn't tell you any storylines.
Okay. Is it because of just not interested in it now, or just there's just not time?
No, there's time. I'm not interested. I guess I kind of find it boring. I don't like some of the matches now. First of all, and this is nothing against anyone that's there.
Absolutely.
Like there's no, my opinion, there's no real character development. For the most part, everyone's kind of cookie cut. Like when we were there, you had the Godwins who wore, their overalls. You had us. You had guys doing different stuff, different things. The outfits are all, for the most part, pretty much the same. Everyone, in my opinion, wants to come out and almost be like either Shawn or Hunter or Stone Cold. So there's no Undertaker characters. There's no characters, in my opinion, to get invested in like there was before. AEW, I don't like the style of the matches. Like the Young Bucks, they're great. I mean, they're great. They're making a lot of money. They're very athletic. They're revolutionizing the business with what they've done with AEW and everything. I just don't like the style of matches. I don't like the boom, 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 going 100 miles an hour and then switching moves and feeding off each other. That I don't like the style of it, so it's hard for me to watch.
Okay, that makes sense. Chaz, I'm going to let you go in a minute. Can I ask you 5 non-wrestling related yes or no questions?
Sure.
Okay. And generally, I clear these with my wife to make sure they're appropriate, but I didn't have a chance. She left for work early.
Inappropriate questions are welcomed.
Okay. Have you ever seen a 90-year-old man swim nude?
No.
Okay. Can you or have you ever put out a cigarette in your hand?
No.
Okay. For $1.2 million, would you wear your face paint the rest of your life, not just in the ring?
Sure.
Okay. You're doing great so far. Have you ever been thrown out of a window?
Not thrown, but I've jumped out of a window.
Does knowing how to take a bump help in that regard at all? Like, could you get thrown out of a first floor window and land right?
Yes. But when I jumped out of the window, I was a kid and I was using a trash bag as a parachute and it didn't work so well and I broke my wrist. But there was one time I was in the shower and I slipped and fell and I tucked my chin so I didn't knock myself out. So yes,
wow.
Knowing how to take a bump is very useful.
It's helped you in like real life.
Yes.
All right. Last question. Does your son now or at ever point when you were raising him did he ever think that you worked for him? Like my son will yell milk and I'm supposed to like get up and go get him milk.
He still does. I mean, he plays travel soccer and he's being recruited for college now. So we're going on these different camps and tours and stuff like that. And no, he absolutely positively takes it for granted of like, Dad, I'm out of ground turkey. When are you making me more ground turkey? Or I'm out of wheat pasta. When are you making me more pasta? And I'm like, the pot's right there. The water's right there. You can boil water. You can put a little bit of salt in it. You can dump it in. You can time it for 8 minutes.
Okay, good. It's comforting to hear that because both my kids think that like I'm an employee in this house. So that's comforting on my end to hear that. Chaz, thank you so much for coming on and giving me some time. This was a real treat for me, and I really appreciate your time.
Awesome. No problem. Thank you. I had a good time. I appreciate it. And what's with the toilet side?
Okay, let me tell you that because people always ask me this. The reason it's called toilet side, I'm not sitting on a toilet and like
that would make it better if you were. Bathroom scene in the back.
People then like would ask me like, "Are you like wearing?" I'm fully clothed. It's just that the only place I can record in my house is in the bathroom because it's the only place I get privacy. So there's a toilet right over there, but that's the only thing that.
See, that would be amazing if you were sitting on the toilet.
I know. Well, my wife's got to get a higher paying job and give me some more space. I'll blow out one of these sinks. All right. Well, thank you so much and stay healthy and stay safe. And again, really appreciate you coming on.
No problem. Thank you. I appreciate it. Have good mosh pitting.
All right. Take care, bud. Bye.
All right. Bye.